How much does a site supervisor earn? In this video, I'm going to give it to you straight. So in the United States, it can be anywhere between $22 and $35 an hour. In the UK, it can be anywhere between 18 and 25 pounds per hour, entry level. 5 to 10 years later, that can double. And when you get really good at it, if site supervisor starts to mean that you're overseeing more crews, more area, or more parts of the job site, or that you're moving into a superintendent position, you could start getting into $85,000, $95,000, $100,000 a year. And that's basically the cold hard truth. And you should probably research your local areas to understand how much that position makes. But here's what I want to talk about. I've already done one about site supervisors and salaries and how much they make. This one, I'm going to use this video to answer some specific questions that I think are super fun, so stay with us. First question, can I make 6 figures as a site supervisor without a degree? If site supervisor means that you are in kind of a general foreman or assistant superintendent in some regions of the country or the world, or that you are now in a supervisory position, the answer is yes. Typically when you're over $100,000 per year, that means you're a superintendent. Not an assistant superintendent necessarily, but a superintendent. You can oversee work. And so the answer is yes, but you're on the higher end and you're able to take on and supervise more work, more risk. And in reference to the degree, I just want you to know I don't have a degree and I was able to make it through quite nicely as long as you're a continual learner. Second question, do site supervisory roles typically come with overtime or do you transition to salary? My answer to this is it varies by area. That's super frustrating. Let me give you an example. On the West Coast, and even actually with unions, typically if you are a foreman or a general foreman, you are going to be hourly with overtime. As soon as you switch to assistant superintendent, most of the West Coast, you are going to switch to salary, which means you no longer get paid for overtime, but now you're in bonus structures. But I have been in places in the Midwest near Chicago where superintendents still are as a part of the carpenters union. And so they're getting overtime. It doesn't happen very much, but most of the time, outside of like situations, one-off situations, like I said, most of the time you're going to transition to salary. So you need to negotiate the right salary and the right bonus structure if they have it to cover because you're not getting paid overtime. What kind of jobs pay the most between infrastructure, commercial, and residential? Top paying is commercial, then infrastructure, then residential. But there are some others where, like if you get into the oil and gas market, that starts to pay quite a bit. If you go to the mines, you are meaning in some form of construction and mining, those wages or the salary really starts to increase. Or if you're on an oil rig, anything that's like really high risk, that starts to like really increase. But between those three, for the question, commercial is the top. How do union and non-union pay scales compare in these roles? And by the way, let me just be neutral on this thing. And when I think about unions, this is my perspective, so I don't make anybody mad. Back in the day when I do mean evil corporations were abusing workers, unions had a place and they do good things, right? I believe in taking care of workers and foremen 100%. And so I also grew up with unions when I was younger in the cement masons, and they provided amazing benefits, amazing training, and everybody in the union was well trained, like just period. I didn't like the picket lines, the protesting, the fights, the physical abuse, and I didn't like that. Just like anything, a union can become corrupt. And I do believe that if you have a great company that treats the workers well and overpays them or pays them really well, that you don't need unions. So I'm fairly neutral on this. Unions, if they're needed, great. Don't be toxic. Don't act like a mafia or a cartel. Great companies, you're already doing what a union would do. You know, hey, do your thing. You know, if it's a right to work state, do your thing. But I will say, from my experience, you go to union areas of the country and the pay is here and the experience level and the skills level is here, and you go to most right to work states, which I actually prefer to be in as a contractor, just being transparent with you, you see that level really diminishes. Like I went from Southern California working around unions where every carpenter could come and they didn't really need field engineers. They were that good. Then I moved to Texas and I was like, oh my gosh, these folks don't even hardly know how to use a hammer. For you, getting started, a union could be a good thing, especially with training, unless you find a company that does it for you. That's the reality of the situation. I wish we didn't even need to talk about it. I wish companies just treated employees right from the start. So this is a system problem, and I hope nobody's mad at me because I'm just telling you data. The last question I have received is, what hidden perks should I make sure are included inside the salary? And I have really good experience with this because in corporate America and with my own construction company, there are companies that will loop everything into your salary or will have really nice benefits. You need to take into consideration, these are some of the lower level hanging fruit type items. If you're a foreman, do they give you a truck, gas card, computer, iPad, right, radio? These are some of the simpler ones. You need to understand that as a part of your package. But the other things that are bigger are per diem and how long or far you have to travel to get to the actual project site. Like if you're away from your home, you get per diem. And if you're in places like California or the Northeast, right, you need a bump in your salary to even subsist in those areas. The other thing is medical, dental, vision, retirement. You need to factor all of that into the wage rate that you're attempting to get. So hopefully that answers that question. But I have loved this question because this actually concludes the questions that we've been getting for site supervisory roles. And here's the deal. I won't know everything specifically to your area. If you have questions, reach out in the comments below. And again, I hope you like the video. I will turn this into a blog post below so you have quick access to it, so you don't have to play back through the video. You also have the transcript in the description below. And I hope you've enjoyed this. I'll see you on the next one. On we go.